Ganun. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. And for those who are watching from a different time zone, good evening or good morning. My name is Marilyn. For those who are new here, I'm the CEO and founder of Customized Training Solutions Private Limited, or CTS. And we are passionate about helping leaders and organizations who are continuous learners and action takers to transform and thrive in all aspects by co-creating, contextualizing, and customizing programs with our world-class resources. We have served over 3,000 leaders from over 30 countries in different industries, including Petronas, Sony Mobile, ProLife UK, Ayala Group, Chevron, Tencent, Jollibee Foods Corporation, and Shell, to name a few. And the reason why we are organizing several intervention, including this interview, is because we would like to help leaders who don't know how to stay relevant and adapt to the next normal, those who find it stressful to lead and ensure performance of a hybrid team, and for those who are afraid that they can't keep their team or their business. So, to be able to stay relevant and continue to lead effectively in any situation, do join us in this interview. And today, it's my great pleasure to introduce our leader with almost 20 plus years in HR, organizational development, digital transformation, operations management, sales, and marketing. George has helped organizations solve business and human centered problems in order for them to become better at what they do, using organizational and human dynamics as basis of change and development. George has worked with small to large enterprises, startups, freelancers, teams both in local and regional, as well as international, by helping them intently design and implement their journey relative to their business and organizational goals. In the last 5 years, George has focused his efforts on specializing in digital transformation and B2B digital marketing, as he believes this is the final piece of true organizational development. And without so much further ado, I'd like to bring in George. Hi, George.
Hey, good afternoon. Hi, everyone. Thank you for
Hello.
inviting me. Thank you for inviting me, Marilyn.
You're welcome, and it's my pleasure to have you today, George. And just to give a brief, information on how did I get to invite you, George and I have actually met through one of her colleagues, who's been like following our Facebook page, Customized Training Solutions, and we are looking into collaborating to be able to add value to our customers as well on the space of learning, organizational development, and especially around mental toughness, right?
That's correct. That's correct. Again, it's a different spin on something, and maybe we can explore that today. No. So yeah, thank you, Marilyn, for sharing that as well.
Yes. And so let's get started. I mean, I have quite a lot of questions for you today. And to add value to our audience, let's start with sharing with them your leadership experiences, your journey. If you do have like favorite influencers you'd like to make mention, or a favorite leadership style that you use, and that, brought you to where you are now. So please do share with us.
Yeah, and thank you. So, if you were to ask me, I really like the question. No? What's my leadership journey? No. Uh, Honestly, it tells you my age. I've seen them all. I've experienced them all. I've become a bad leader. I've also become a good leader. But maybe to describe it right now, I wouldn't say that I'm a leader. Eh. I would say probably that I'm more of a lifelong learner. At this point in time or in this stage where I'm right now, I'd rather just be like a sponge and absorb things because things are changing. I've seen it in the past 10 years, especially how things have quickly changed. And even leadership styles are changing. I mean, two
Exactly.
years, 5 years ago, the style might be, I mean, different styles. Agile leadership. There's more design centric leadership. Something like that. But apparently, right now, it's what's effective right now, and I think it's really more what can be adaptable to that situation that you're in. So I don't know if you were to ask me again. I'd say that I'm very comfortable in just probably taking it all in and see where it goes.
Wow, I really love what you've shared. And I mean, that's what leaders are, in fact, George. Although,
Yeah.
despite that you were saying that you prefer to be called as a lifelong learner or a sponge, to learning a lot of things from around you, from different people. But it's really like, if you are a continuous learner and you use this to add value to others, that's basically leadership, right? So thank you for sharing your experience as well.
To add context to that, you did ask a question: who might have been my leaders that I really look up to.
Mhm.
Again, I told you it's a lot. I've been through a leadership where everything is cutthroat. I've been in a leadership where everything is authoritarian. It came to a point when I was starting out working. The leader that I had was not even a leader. It was a boss. It was the typical epitome of a boss. And maybe because of my age, because I started working as early as 2000, year
Mhm.
2000. So imagine the culture back then.
Yes.
Uh, it came to a point even when I was starting out as a freshie. I experienced being part of a company where there's so much traditional leadership, wherein everything has to be acknowledged. You have to respect people, even if you don't have respect for them. You have to carry their stuff. You have to, and I experienced that to a point that I even went as far as experiencing, uh, you know, leadership with full autonomy, meaning it's up to you guys. I won't bother you, just produce and that's it. And I also, again, different types of leaders in the political spectrum. Even there were leaders that made me feel uncomfortable. There were leaders who were also so good and so kind and so tolerant. And again, that's why I wouldn't say that, hey, I have this one particular person, because each and every one of them has good and bad traits.
Yes. Thank
There's
you.
something, and we I can't say that, hey, this person really influenced me. Maybe some of the good, but somehow some of the bad also I did learn on what not to do as a
Exactly.
leader.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Thank you for contextualizing that better for us. I mean, like, and what I like about what you said, even before that contextualization that you did just now, is that you've mentioned that being adaptable is important. And that's the reason why you would call yourself as a lifelong learner, right? And again, leadership style changes. It depends on who you work with, where you work with, what's the culture like, and that's also something that I have heard recently from another leader, saying that leadership style has an expiry date. And
Oh yeah.
again, because we cannot use the same, styles now, in this, what I actually call next normal, right? So thank you for sharing that. And I mean, I have you have shared your experience and the leadership styles and your experience with both good and bad boss. So in your case, how would you define leadership? What is leadership for you?
To where I'm standing right now, I think leadership is being able to be an example, uh, not just to the team, but to the organization that you serve. And being that example means being a positive influence and a positive light to everyone in order for you to produce your results.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, at the end of the day, it's a business. There's no denying everything, under companies, under corporate, it's all a business. But how do you differentiate yourself to be a positive force
Mm-hmm.
in ensuring that you still deliver results, but at the same time also you carry that responsibility and accountability of making sure that people around you are following that good example.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that you have to be perfect, but at least you know, strive for something. I'm not even saying strive for perfection, but strive for something. And leadership is a work in progress. It's, because things change. Um, Probably 10 years or 15 years ago when you spoke to me, my leadership style would have been very different. I would be
Mm-hmm.
very autocratic. I would be by the book. I wouldn't really look into the direction of people management, but more on results management. But now it's different. How the perspectives have changed. No? So, uh, and that's the reason why the past 5 years I've also learned that just take it all in. Don't force whatever agenda and let be an observer first and see what you can do to make things effective because it changes again. The dynamic changes. One day, I have a very good analogy for you. Um, I saw somebody post in LinkedIn just the other day that her day typically begins with her making a choice on the three modes or the three moods that she can work on. The first mood would be the survival mood or the survival mode, meaning, she'll do something because she needs to survive, meaning she'll do the motions of getting through that day. The other one is the detached mode. She'll detach herself because she doesn't feel like doing things, and it maybe has previous day she might have experienced burnout, and that's why she chose this day to be more of detached.
Mm-hmm.
And the third one is beast mode. No, and the beast mode is the one that I don't really care what happens. I'm gonna get what I want. So today I'm gonna be hyperactive. I'm going to be like a bulldozer, trying to get my way and trying to deliver whatever results I want. And I like that because at the start of the day you wouldn't really know what happens. So eventually you can make a selection on these three modes, how you can react depending what situation you're thrown in. So just to share that.
Thank you for sharing that post with us, and it's really interesting. And at the same time, again, how we actually respond to things that happens to us. And you've mentioned about dynamic changes, which is happening faster than we can think of right now as well. And also, again, that goes back to the point that you've mentioned, that how adaptability is important in these times, right? Which leads me to my next question. How would you describe next normal then? Because we've been through pandemic in the last what, over 2.5 years or almost 3 years perhaps. Um, and we've been talking about this next normal. So how would you define it, or how would you describe it for you in your experience?
I hate to sound pessimistic, no, but more than ever, the pandemic was really a learning experience to
Mm-hmm,
all of us.
mm-hmm,
And to be more on the spiritual side of things, I felt it was more of a cleansing ritual
mm-hmm,
to actually, you know, rid us all of bad practices that we used to practice before. And when I say bad practices, practices that we think may be beneficial but needed to let go
Mm-hmm.
before. One such example might be for for an organization, you know, extremely high costs to maintain operations. Might be a practice that can be you know uh, without there were some organizations in the past or
Mm-hmm.
companies in the past that advocated, yeah, sure, we were doing well, especially in a good year, uh, but the costs are also high to maintain such operations. And because they felt that they were doing well, they never really looked the way of process efficiency, putting in more productivity, more rigidity into their capitalization and all that. So what I'm saying is, because of the pandemic being a learning experience, there's so many practices that are right now no longer applicable.
Exactly.
Plus, what's also happening as it's changing right now is it's quite different. We're living in a world of caution. And that's the reason why people don't take so much risks anymore. Because who knows, anytime. I mean, it only took 1 month to kill hundreds of thousands of people, right? We know that. We've experienced that. And it only took a couple of months to actually disable businesses who, up until this day, are reeling from the effects of the past 2 years. As we speak, uh, I mean, I would even go as far as saying that the next casualty, and you can hear it from this page, from this webinar, the next casualty from all of this is actually Zoom. You know Zoom, the Zoom platform, right?
Yes.
So I'm looking into that direction and telling you this because, as it is, Zoom was very popular during the pandemic. But right now, when things are opening up, what's going to be your use for Zoom? And that's going. If you look at their portfolio, their stocks have been going down as of recent. So what does it tell you? It tells you that the new normal is to be approached with caution and at the same time with optimism, but you have to move in or take action in such a way that it has to be really be fast. You have to put it in a perspective of speed. Because if you don't, then it's like a vicious cycle. It can happen. Plus, this time we've realized more often than not that digital is so much instrumental in how things are changing. So
Mm-hmm.
you can't. I mean, I'm fun. It's funny because, and I'm gonna share this with you. 5 years or 6 years ago, I resigned from my organ. I retired, early retirement from my organizational development practice to focus on digital marketing because I knew somehow. I think you've read my bio that this is going to be the next wave. And it's funny because right now, if you look at all the job openings, there are only three ones that are really, really in high demand. You're going to see people who are, well, obviously tech is in high demand. That's a given.
Mm-hmm.
But the second one that's been emerging is analytics, data. And the third one is marketing. As you look at the job boards everywhere, so many openings. And people are now just acting on it when 5 years ago people were already telling them, hey man, you should go online. So again, that's what I'm saying. That's why we have to approach it with caution because and always put that mindset of, hey, I really have to adapt, I really have to prepare really quickly. I have to have the tools, I have to have the skills, regardless of where you are right now. Because otherwise, if you don't, it's going to be difficult, especially if you're a leader.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank
Um,
you. Mm.
yeah,
Sorry.
I Talkative, too talkative. But yeah,
Thank you so much. I really appreciate how you define or describe new normal and or next normal to for us. I mean, I would say it could be also be like post pandemic as another term for, this. And again, I it's really like both shocking for most and at the same time it's also a silver lining for most as well, right? Like as you've mentioned, it's a cleansing process. And what I've always hear when I attend webinars or summits, like as if there's someone who pushed a pause button, that like a lot of us were not even able to go out and do a lot of things, and businesses has also like somehow put into a pause. And again, the importance of like how are you gonna turn it around, um
yeah,
and like how fast will you turn it around as well, right? And adapting to the new normal, like there are things that happens and are really like well accepted because of trend or because of the need, but at the same time, how are you reinventing yourself right, in order to uh stay
relevant.
relevant for most people. I mean, that's also the same reason why we're having these conversations as well, right? So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that with us. And I mean, obviously, even before the pandemic, you also work as a corporate leader and now working with other corporate leaders as well, in your consulting or even digital marketing business. So, what would you say from your experience? What would you say would be the top three problems that most leaders face?
Um, in the context right now, I've just read, you know, it's really true. No? There is somehow I think it came out loud last month when there was this article about quiet quitting. I'm
Mhm.
sure you've read about it.
Yes.
You know, the quiet quitting syndrome. Well, it's not actually quiet quitting. It's been around for decades, for so long, and it's called disengagement.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the number one problem that leaders will be facing right now. It's
Mm-hmm.
disengagement. And when I say disengagement, it's actually a culmination of what happened the past couple of years plus what's currently happening right now. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like putting that person in between an incoming threat and something that happened in the past. That's why he's experiencing disengagement. I wouldn't want to go the word quiet quitting because it's a very woke term. It's a very I would probably say disengagement. Now, there are factors to disengagement as a problem. Number one, it's um, people become disengaged because of a couple of factors. Number one, they feel threatened. Number two, they need to survive. And what I mean by need to survive, you know, current work scenario, I'm working 9 to 5, I'm treated this way, I'm given this X amount of salary. What's gonna be my future here? So I'd rather work side hustles and somehow disengage myself. There are others experiencing disengagement from bad leadership or a bad office culture. And with us Filipinos, the number one reason perhaps for disengagement is economic. You know, I want to seek greener pastures. Now, I think that's the number one problem that leaders will have to face
To face.
disengagement. The second one, it's the skills gap. When I say the skills gap, as we speak right now, 2 or 3 months from now, there will be a new skill that people will need to adapt to really quickly in order to be competitive and relevant.
Mm-hmm.
I used to, I remember before when I was like 8 years ago, I said, you know, if I were to build a website, I'll just hire a developer. But now, I need to learn how to do it. I need to code in WordPress. I need to do all these integrations. I need to do everything. Run my podcast, run edit in an editing software, do Canva, do everything, even code. Why? Because if you don't adapt to those skills right now, as it's changing, you're going to be left behind. So again, that's going to be a problem with the leader, especially if the people that they work with, or the leaders themselves, or even the organization that they're in, isn't ready to adapt. I'm not even saying, I'm sorry, I sorry for that word ready, isn't primed for adapt or adapting or changing.
Mhm.
That's the second one. The third problem that I'm seeing is really the mental health aspect.
Mhm.
And when I say the mental health aspect, it's the burnout. If there's anything that we learned during the past 2 years, no amount of work from home is going to save you from the demands of your company. Even if you're working from home, much so now that people are going back to the office, the backlash is real because if during the time that we were locked in our homes and it was so difficult to actually come up with work-life balance, quote and unquote, what more now when you have to undergo the daily commutes again, which has, by the way, gotten worse. So a normal commute before of an hour and a half. I know this because a week ago I went to a meeting in BGC. I live in Quezon City, and 2 years ago, what typically took me about an hour and a half to get there already took me 2.5 hours.
Wow.
And that's primarily also the reason why I said to myself, I'm not going to bring my car anymore. No, 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 no way will I bring my car because aside from being in traffic, it becomes exhausting if you're driving 2.5 hours of non-moving traffic. Plus, of course, the parking and the gas prices. I would rather take a grab, and so you see how things are changing, right?
Exactly. Yes.
So those are the three things. Those are the three things that leaders will have to contend with.
Exactly. Again, just to summarize for everyone, the first is disengagement, or what we hear as quiet quitting, skill gaps, and that's the reason why learning and development professionals are actually focusing a lot on people's skills, and other trainings for the organization. And again, mental health, we've all heard of this, but despite that, this is already in our face, or we've been hearing it a lot recently. At the same time, like, it used to be a taboo. I mean, in most places, right? You don't normally have this conversation around mental health, but at the same time, it's really like that feeling of like, oh, the might think I'm crazy or what not, right? But again, we've been like, it's also one of the silver linings, I would say, during the pandemic, that we realize that, okay, we need that balance, and we need to take care of ourselves to be able to, like, also serve others and to have that balance, right? And it's not a taboo, or it's not bad to, like, to share that something is going on in your mind, or that you're feeling stress and all those stuff. And it's actually good to be, we always hear that, right? Preventive is always better. Like, so
Oh
to
yes,
prevent that before it even like happens to into a burnout, right? We can actually stop burnout if we were to, like, oh, okay, these are already, like, if we are self-aware, or if we are aware also within the organizations, and we do things to be able to, like, prevent that. Because for all thing, you're losing, like, someone who's really good or is performing well just because of burnout, which takes time. It develops in
yeah,
probably like a year or so or more, like, and then you'll be surprised once it happens that, okay, I cannot take this anymore, I have to leave.
yeah. And there's so many forms of burnout, and again, a result of that really is distress, which you don't want. distress
Mhm.
emotionally, that can also lead to physical distress, and finally even a mental illness. Yeah, I'll share it. I'll share something personal,
Mhm.
Marilyn.
Mhm.
5 years ago, and I'm also thankful with the Republic Act 11036, Mental Health Act. But 5 years ago, um, I took it upon myself, even before when the Mental Health Act was formally passed.
Mhm.
I took upon myself to actually get myself diagnosed, because I one of the things that I'm almost going 50, my age. So the funny thing is, I always felt that I had these issues when it comes to work. The issues in terms of sometimes I get so distracted easily. I can't focus. You know, um, for that matter, I have certain mood swings during the rest of the day. So I got myself thinking that, hey, maybe you can seek help, ask what's going on, and lo and behold, I was diagnosed with adult onset ADHD.
Oh.
So imagine knowing that at the later stage of my life, which is a little bit. It was actually a blessing being able to know that, but it was also a curse somehow, because had I known this earlier, I could have set better boundaries. I could have made better decisions. I may have done things quite differently.
Mhm.
So, so that's what I'm saying. It was very freeing to know that I had that condition.
Mhm.
So I mean, because freeing in such a way that you know now what boundaries, now what triggers these things, which is in such one way or the other, you tend to understand yourself better. You become
Yes.
more self-aware, and then you manage the problem. So
Yes.
there.
Thank you for sharing your experience and like what you have gone through as well. And again, that's the reason why, it's important to like be self-aware and also like work on being preventive, right? Or like do things in advance or as early as possible. So thank you for sharing that. And before I actually proceed to my next question, I'd like to give an invitation again to those who are watching us live or even those who will join us on a replay later to like join us in this conversation. Type in the comment section on like what you're learning from this conversation, and if you have any questions for George, do like share that with us. And so that leads me again to the next question. We raised the top three problems earlier, and obviously we will not leave them with all those problems without giving them like somehow some solutions on what are the important leadership capabilities and skills that they must have or you must have in this post pandemic or next normal to continue to lead effectively or probably to
Yeah.
address the top problems that you've shared as well earlier, right?
You know what? If you look at the problems that I've shared,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
uh, really looking at it closely, most of them uh, is actually pointing to just one place, and that's a person's mental state.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it may be funny because obviously there's a lot of leadership principles. I can just get a couple of books, get David Ulrich, or get some of these books that I have, and just show you that these are the principles that we need to live by.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm gonna go a different path.
Okay.
Number one, because you can just Google any principle out there, and
Mm-hmm.
people can just probably study what it means. But I'd probably go in the direction of, if I were to advise like my clients right now. Obviously, I have clients in the startup scene. I have clients in the enterprise scene, and resoundingly, if they ask me for advice, hey, George, what do you think might be a good leadership program that we can implement? Obviously, everything is fit for purpose. We have to understand first, depending on the dynamics of the organization. But
Right.
one encompassing framework, shall we say, again, it's quite different, would be psychological safety.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Psychological safety is, well, actually, it's actually a book. You can actually get that book. You can type this and we can have our readers get that book. The name of the book is The Four Stages of Psychological Safety by Timothy Clark. And I would highly encourage and recommend this book to any leader out there. Because you guys, you've already read all the different leadership programs, right? You know, you've studied POVI, you've studied all these CCL programs, all these DDI programs, right? To name a few of these programs. But this one is quite different because it really focuses on where we are right now, and perhaps by some striking chance, it can help us solve some of the three problems that I mentioned a while ago. Um, Maybe to summarize what the quadrants are, if you were to indulge me,
Mm-hmm.
it's all about four areas. Number one is learner safety, or building an environment where people are safe to learn. Number one. Number two is collaborator safety or collaboration safety, building an environment where people collaborate, lesser conflict. Okay. The third one is challenger safety, building an environment where people can be direct enough to challenge things, but still feel safe. And finally, the last one would be inclusion safety. You know, building an environment where you feel really inclusive. There's no cliques. There's no, politics are minimal. As much as possible, people feel okay when they say things.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're to ask me, those perhaps might be a good way to approach those three problems or these three problem areas right now by leaders.
Sorry, can you repeat for me the third one?
Okay, the third one is challenger safety.
Challenger safety. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
really
being able,
appreciate. Yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
and maybe we can break it down one by one.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go first to why learner safety. The first quadrant, learner safety is very very important. Um, Imagine if you're in a company that you are a new hire for a new company, and this company is like high performing company, and then you came from another company.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you got hired for a reason, right? And you give your all, except you have different paradigms coming from that different company. Obviously, you're still going to acclimate yourself to your new company, and the learning curve might be a little bit steep for you. Imagine if no one is going to support you, or if no one is going to lend you a hand, or for that matter, everyone is going to criticize you, or for that matter, probably point out and drill down to your mistakes more than your milestones. So imagine what happens to you after joining that company. Obviously, after 3 months, you'd quit, right? Or for that matter, look for other greener pastures and become part of the quiet quitting crowd, right?
Yes,
So that's part of why learner safety is important. The
exactly.
second one is collaboration or collaborator safety as part of the quadrant in the workplace that I think should be practiced by a leader or promoted by a leader. Imagine if in a company people work in silos, or for that matter don't want to share ideas, or for that matter if somebody has an idea, people shoot it down, right? And or people have different, I don't agree with you, definitely I'm not gonna go along for the ride, and I'm going to make sure my idea is the one that sticks out. Or for that matter, in a group, because we have different beliefs, I'm not going to be openly collaborative with you. So imagine if you're in that kind of workplace and you don't promote collaboration,
Mm-hmm.
you'll have a problem there. And
Exactly.
collaboration is being able to have honest interaction.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I would be happy if, for example, in a company wherein I'm struggling because I don't know, let's say for example, to make a report in Excel. It would be good, and I'm sure a lot of people would feel this, that I would have somebody that I can ask and you know get coaching from to help me get by this problem or this hurdle that I'm facing. And it's not just that, it's not just the learning portion, but also with the work that we're doing. True collaboration is being able to share ideas. No matter how left field the other idea is, you still put that into account because you value that the person's ideas or difference is also going to be instrumental in being able to bring out change.
Mm-hmm.
So collaboration safety for me is one thing that should be promoted by a leader.
Exactly.
Um, the third one, okay, let me remember. Okay, challenger safety.
Mm-hmm.
Challenger safety is all about promoting a culture as a leader where you can encourage people to speak up. When I say speak up, be able to challenge your ideas as a leader. Not all the leaders have
Are
the
okay.
right answers. Oh, well, you're correct. Not all leaders are okay, but more often than not, even if they're okay, not all the leaders have the right answers. And it's good if
Exactly.
somebody challenges you. Now, disclaimer, 20
Yeah.
years ago, I never thought this way. If somebody challenged me, obviously I felt really bad. But as I told you, as time went by, as I learned and unlearned some of my mistakes in the past as a leader, right now I would say that it's very, very important to promote a culture where people can really freely speak up
Mm-hmm.
without feeling offended, without being offensive. Obviously, the respect should still be there. But
Exactly.
we want a place where people can express their ideas. Like, I don't care if the person proposes to me some really weird idea, and it's okay. Let's acknowledge that, and let's see how we can further explore that. So, or for that matter, they see a problem with the process or the way we're doing things, and by all means, please speak up. We'd want leaders to have that. For example, right now in the context of working from home,
Mm-hmm.
I would admire companies who would really go down and listen to their employees, especially if they're saying that, what, it doesn't really make sense for me to make that commute on a daily basis just to be able to make it to the office because of certain factors. So we hope that to have that environment where people can openly challenge, but in a very, very professional and respectful manner. And finally, I think in the fourth quadrant, where we're talking about inclusion safety. Inclusion has something to do with how you feel safe in your environment. There are no cliques. There are no groups that openly attack you. If people have a different belief, and I think one of the, if even if you ask through a survey, the top five reasons why people leave sometimes is because they feel that they don't belong in a certain place. And it may be because it's not acknowledged. I'm not encouraging juvenile behavior because there might be people who have juvenile behavior, but
Mm-hmm.
let the process take care of that. But as a leader, if you have, let's say, a direct report who has juvenile behavior in a team setting, the role of the leader is to be able to manage that interaction in order for that person to change, obviously, that juvenile behavior, but at the same time also for the teammates not to bring so much pressure for that person and make that person feel like an outcast. And that's the responsibility of the leader. So again, If you're to ask me, a leader is a really difficult role right now. As much as yes, it does pay well, but I tell you, it's very rewarding, sure, but it also means you should be able to bring to the table all these, tools for you to be able to balance everything.
Exactly. And I really love how you ended that with having to have that balance, and also like the fact that you have actually brought us through the all quadrants of the uh four stages of psychological safety. And we've had that conversation both in our webinars and summit as well before. And again, that would address all the problems or top problems most leaders do face, right? And we've always heard nowadays how collaboration is queen, according to a conversation I had with a group COO of AirAsia. He said that
Oh yes.
collaboration is queen. And then again, like when you say learning safety, it's really like, as we encourage people to continuously learn or be lifelong learning. And that also means like they are making mistakes, or there
Oh
are
yes.
things that you will try that will fail. And it's about like embracing it. It's about learning from it, right? From those mistakes or failures that happen. And again, not a lot of people, especially in our culture in Asia, unfortunately, right? It's kind of difficult um to speak up. So challenger safety is, I would say, like one of the most challenging of all as well in the four stages in Asia, because like, oh, you have to respect me, or I'm the leader here, I'm the boss here, or whatnot. And so this is really like something that like I would say that most um people or um team members would have difficulty with. And again, like it's really like if you're a leader, it's really about listening and being able to be open minded about like ideas. And you'll be surprised how much more ideas and things that you can learn from the different perspective that you have in your organization, which leads us to inclusion, right? And that's part of having that diversity and inclusions. And we've been hearing a lot around DEI, right? In the recent years as well. And it's because it really like contributes a lot in the way we are able to like have more diversity, have more inclusions, not only within the organization, but outside of our organization, especially of our customers, right? And having those different perspective actually like opens up as well, like more opportunities, and of course, profitability in the end. Because as you mentioned in your first answer, right, it's also about having the results in mind as well, right?
No, and again, that's true. I think you hit the nail there. Diversity, true diversity and inclusion isn't just really confined to gender issues, beliefs, or
Exactly.
anything. More than anything, it has something to do with perspective.
True.
So if another person has a different perspective, not because it doesn't fit in the mold of your organization, doesn't mean that you have to alienate the person. Because somewhere, somehow, there's an idea there that will work. And I'll tell you honestly, Marilyn, I've worked in an organization before that practiced so much rigidity. I felt so much boxed in. And I'm the type of person, you know me, I've told you, I'm ADHD. So obviously,
So difficult to be
I
boxed.
would have, yeah, I would have appreciated if people saw, or maybe if there was anything that my leader would have actually helped me become more visible and be able to acknowledge those ideas and
Mhm.
defend those ideas, so that, because I know in the end, and it was true, because after 5 years or 6 years, I come out laughing and saying, hey, I told you this is gonna happen. You never believed in me. And that's the thing. If people who had diverse thought were given more airspace or airtime, I think we would be better.
Yes.
because the ideas, the wild ideas, those are the ones that are actually working right now, especially now.
Especially now.
I
Yes.
mean, who would have thought 10 years ago, would you think that TikTok would actually make millionaires out of people? I
Wow.
mean, who would have thought? So it has to you. I mean, openness is very important as a leader. If you
Yes.
have a person who's a little bit left field, encourage the person. Sige, give out more of your ideas. But let me contextualize as the leader. Let me help you make it clearer so that people who don't get it can get it. I think that's what the
Exactly.
leader's role should come in.
Yes, very true. And so that leads me to my generally question, or like an invitation for you to, I mean, we've been talking about learning, how important continuous learning and adaptability is, and how important the role of leadership as well. And definitely there has to change, there has to be transformation. And so that's an invitation generally for you to probably summarize what we have been talking about in the last 50 minutes, on like what do you believe is the role of learning, leadership, and transformation in order for us to thrive post pandemic or in this next normal.
Again, I don't want to come up with motherhood statements. Uh, to simplify things, I think it's just whatever we have right now, it is what it is. It is what it is. And the only choice there is to develop a mindset of being able to adapt to things. No matter how far flung things are, especially, I mean, give an example.
Mhm.
Would you believe that during the pandemic, there was like a 200% increase of people who were actually biking on the road compared to before, right? And
Mhm.
the only reason why we had that statistic is because the paradigm shifted,
True.
right? And it's the same thing with us. Things that we feel right now are in front of us as part of our comfort zone. If we feel that there's something new that's more effective, acknowledge that and try to approach it with such a curiosity that you even want to learn it yourself so that you can adapt, whether it's a behavior, it's a skill, or an experience.
Yes, I would say that the curiosity and the eagerness to learn will really help us in terms of like adapting into that, to the changes that we are going through, and that's really a necessity rather than just a want.
Especially right now, we're in the, oh, I forgot to mention, we're in actually, if we're actually in the doer generation.
Yes.
When I say the doer generation, you don't 10 years ago when people wanted to learn something or implement something, they probably ask you, hey, do I have like 3 months to prepare? Now, no. To hell. To hell with preparation. Do it now. Learn it now. And
Yeah.
fail fast. Iterate, iterate, iterate. So I think that's something that what we can learn from right now is
Yes.
to,
And
yeah.
mhm. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, is to.
No. Implement, iterate.
Yeah, thank you for reminding us with that. And so that leads me to my last question, which I would normally refer to as Miss Universe. So in your case, Mr. Universe question. So if you have a magic wand and can use it, what will you do with it?
Magic wand.
Yes.
Again, well, I don't know. Actually, I wouldn't know which context I'm looking at. But if I had the magic wand, maybe let's just take a look at um, companies right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think what needs to, if I had the magic wand right now, I was hoping that companies can be more open to changes right now. Because I see a lot of companies, honestly, because I'm in consulting, so I talk to a lot of people, I get to interact with some of these people. And it's funny, some of these traditions are still very much, very much tightly
On to
held.
that, right?
And it's funny because an employee or two might come up to me and say, you know what, the reason why we're not changing in the company is not because of the employees, it's because of the owners, or it's because of the leaders. So if I had a magic wand, I think let's abandon traditional thinking and be more open to what's happening right now.
Yes, true.
uh, and that goes to not just the companies, but even the government, right? I mean, so that things can be better, because the faster we are able to adapt and implement, the better.
Yes, very true. Thank you. And I believe like through the work that we do, right? It's really something that we are like on our own way and capacity that we are able to help like companies and others to be more open to those changes and to be able to be more adaptable in and embracing whatever we're supposed to have to for the better as well. And so that leads me to my last question, that if you were to ask yourself a question that you can best answer, what would it be? What question would you ask yourself? And since you can best answer that, please feel free to answer that for us.
I think, if there was one question that I would like to ask myself, it would still have to, you know go back to a question in the past
Mm-hmm.
that I've always asked myself. You know, how would you have done this 10 years ago? And the answer there is always, if something happens in this, in your head, in terms of, okay, an insight comes in, a question comes in, entertain that thought immediately and try to explore it, because who knows, that might have been the question that you're going to ask yourself 10 years after. So if it crosses your mind right now, might as well entertain it.
Mm-hmm.
If I'll give you an example to make it clear. If a question, let's say, comes up, or a thought comes up, like, you know, at this age, George, 50 years old, or you're going 50, would you still want to work, abroad as an expat? Why not? So before I would say, nah, too old for that. 10 years from now, I'm going to retire. I'd rather set up my business, or, expand my business I'm enjoying right now. But why not? Or for that matter, if an idea comes out that, would you want to shift career and become a lawyer, or do go into tech? Why not? So
Wow.
again, those things,
Mm-hmm.
before, try to entertain them and try to explore them, because who knows, you might end up regretting or asking that question 10 years after. So,
Exactly. And a lot of times, the things that we regret are the things that we didn't do, right? And
yep,
again, when you said that, when a thought or something comes up into your mind, right? It's always like I believe those are what we call intuitions, and it's really like our soul, like really like giving us clues on living our purpose and satisfying our soul and
yep,
living
I agree.
who
I
we
agree
really
with that.
who we really are, right? So and
Yeah.
there's so much possibilities. I mean, humans are really amazing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
We can do like we're so powerful. We can create so many things and we can do and create so many things. And it's interesting that just being ourselves and just living our purpose is benefiting not only ourselves but the people around us. So they have to remember that. And thank you for sharing that question again, George. So before we end this conversation, is there anything more that you'd like to leave our audience with?
I think, especially for leaders right now, take it easy with your people. Take it easy with your people. Take it easy with yourself. But with that thought as well, make sure that you're also putting yourself in a place where you can become adaptable. Because more than anything, I've seen the past 3 years leaders rise and fall, literally and figuratively. So my tip would be always give yourself that space to adapt and be something more.
Yes. Wow, that's really beautiful. Thank you so much for that message. And again, this is an invitation for everyone to help each other, to collaborate, and to intentionally create more opportunities for us to make this world a better place to live in. And remember that even the richest investors in the world would say that investing in yourself is the best investment you can ever make in your life, right? So thank you so much again, George, for this conversation. Very motivating and very inspiring. So I really appreciate that. And with that, we would like to leave our audience with this quote, that if your actions create a legacy that inspires others to dream more, learn more, to do more, and become more, then you are an excellent leader. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you again, George. And
Thank you.
everyone, and bye for now.
Bye bye.